Thank you so much for taking the time to watch Developmental Pathways Hearts of Glass panel. Developmental Pathways is a nonprofit serving individuals with developmental and intellectual disabilities and delays for Arapahoe County, Douglas County, and the city of Aurora. My name is Rachel Walker. I am the Community Partnerships Manager on the Community Engagement team at Developmental Pathways. We are so excited to bring you Hearts of Glass and its story of inclusive employment for those with disabilities. We hope this event inspires everyone, including you, to promote an inclusive and diverse workforce. Our introduction during the event did not record properly, so after this message, the video will jump straight to our moderator, Tom Knost. Tom is the Senior Director of Activities and Employment Services for Continuum of Colorado. Our recording starts with Tom sharing why inclusive employment matters to him and our community. We hope that you enjoy the panel discussion. Thank you so much for taking part in this very important conversation.
And there's been a lot of change happening in all of our lives, personally, locally, nationally, and globally. Tonight's event touches on three major themes in society right now: the pandemic, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the workforce crisis. Historically speaking, people experiencing an intellectual or developmental disability have not been engaged in the community workforce in anywhere near the numbers that would be considered representative. For many years, the national statistics have shown that close to 80% of people experiencing IDD are either underemployed or unemployed. Another area that intersects is the pandemic. We all have probably experienced in the last 18 months some form of workforce disruption during the pandemic. For those of us who have, many have experienced negative quality of life impacts, such as increased anxiety, feelings of isolation, and depression. The last area is our national workforce crisis. It doesn't take much to see that many employers in various fields are extremely short-staffed and in need of employees. There's work to be done in a workforce that is under or unutilized. And when we consider how meaningful work is to all of us, not just in wages, but to our well-being, emotionally, how we perceive ourselves in society, we can appreciate how work can be life-changing for all of us. Tonight, we get to talk to individuals on the front lines of creativity and inclusion. Vertical Harvest has started a business to address a community need and made it successful by including everyone in their community. So let's start by meeting our panelists, and I'll call you out. And if you can let us know who you are and why an inclusive employment is important to you. Why don't we start with Jen?
All right, I found my unmute button, so things are off to a roaring start. I'm Jen Tennican. I'm the director of Hearts of Glass. I'm an independent documentary filmmaker. I've been living in Jackson since 2002. Before that, I was in the Boston area and worked with independent producers who did a lot of films for WGBH in Boston, NOVA programs, science shows, and I sort of went off on my own and did my own work. I've focused on community storytelling since moving to Jackson. And why is inclusive employment? Well, I mean, from what I've seen, it not only benefits the individual with a disability and their family, but also the community and the business. So I think there are lots of cases to be made for inclusive employment, from social to economic and beyond.
Absolutely, thank you. All right, I'm going to move on to Shawn. You're next on my panel. You can unmute and introduce yourself and let us know why inclusive employment is important.
I'm Shawn Stone, and I'm a senior facility associate of Vertical Harvest. And it's kind of hard with people with disability, because if like the managers of a business, it's kind of hard because he didn't understand who has the disability. It's kind of hard for us to realize that with people with disability, it's kind of hard for us to get jobs because most employers don't realize that.
Absolutely, I agree. All right, moving on to my next block. Luke, you are next on my panel. Can you introduce yourself and let us know why inclusive employment is important to you?
I'd like to say, first of all, thank you for letting me to participate in this. I work at Steamers and Jacks, and it's been 12 years I've been working there. And like Shawn was saying, it's kind of hard for us disability adults with certain disabilities. It is kind of hard for some people to look at us thinking in their mind that it's not going to work out for this job, but we can still do that same job as a normal person.
Absolutely. I've seen a lot of employer change, right? They have to see it first and experience it first, and then they can move past. But all right, moving on to the next one. Robin.
Hi, all. My name's Robin. I am currently the farm manager at Vertical Harvest. I hail from Baltimore originally, but I've been living in Jackson for a number of years. And inclusive employment to me, I think, means seeking out and including people of all abilities in consideration for hire, in consideration for promotions, for work in general. Also assuming competence in people. Kind of like, assuming that someone can do a task as opposed to assuming that they can't, or assuming something just based on someone's appearance. And kind of lastly, is learning people's abilities through job experience, finding them an appropriate job based on abilities and strengths, again, instead of assuming something.
Outstanding. And last but not least, Lloyd, can you introduce yourself and let us know why inclusive employment is important to you?
Sure. My name's Lloyd Lewis. I'm in my 16th year as the CEO of the ARC Thrift Stores of Colorado. Our mission is to fund 15 ARC advocacy programs across the state that help people with IDD find jobs, housing, medical services, and schools. I joined from the private sector. I have an 18-year-old with Down syndrome who's a wonderful young man. And when I started with ARC, I created an employment program for people with intellectual disabilities. We now have hired 350 wonderful employees with intellectual disabilities out of a total workforce of 1,600. We had 14 record years pre-COVID. Our employees with IDD helped us get through the COVID year, and we're having another record year this year. And I attribute half of our success to their talents and skills. They work in all facets of our company. They are wonderful employees. They love to work in teams. They love to contribute. They have terrific attendance, no turnover. And they make a real difference in our company and for the people in our company and for the community. And I just think they have unrecognized strengths and talents and skills that, if given a chance, shine through in amazing ways. Very important to employ people with IDD.
That's it. Thank you. All right, we will start with our panel questions, and I'd like to kick off the panel questions to Jen. Amazing documentary. I don't know if you haven't had a chance to see it, it's a beautiful documentary. It's amazing. Can you let us know about what made you decide to make the film?
Well, as I said, I'd been focusing on telling stories in my community. And I think when something this innovative is happening in your backyard, it's kind of, I was very motivated to do it. I knew there were 3 women behind Vertical Harvest who had worked on it for a number of years before it came to fruition. So the 2 of them and I were often commiserating around fundraising and a lot of other things on our separate projects. I had happened to finish the film before Hearts of Glass, just as they were finishing the greenhouse. And I kind of had this moment where I said, oh my goodness, this is an amazing opportunity. I've never covered something sort of from the start. Most of the stories that I've told have been retrospective. And it was, I had a reputation in the community where people tended foolishly to trust me to tell their stories. And so they gave me permission to do it. And it was like being a fly on the wall a lot of the time in a very narrow building, a very slender fly on the wall.
Well, I think they had a fantastic choice. You did a wonderful job.
They had a choice of one person, and it was me.
Well, sometimes that's how things work, right?
Right.
Okay, Shawn, I'm curious, how have your responsibilities changed since you started at Vertical Harvest? Have you had different responsibilities and jobs?
Well, it changed for me because like it made me like sprout out, and it makes me have fun because of my disability, and everybody's just like, whoa, he can do this with his disability. He said, yeah, because it's just amazing.
That's a fantastic experience. All right. When you say that you kind of sprouted out, were there areas that you were even surprised?
Yes.
What are some of those areas?
Like my strength and my ability to do it. And it was like kind of surprised me.
Right. That's amazing. Right. That's a powerful feeling. All right, Robin, I know you have an interesting story as well. I mean, how have your responsibilities changed? I remember you saying earlier that you kind of came in right after things had wrapped up with the documentary, I believe.
Yeah, when I came in 3 years ago, in 2018, the film had wrapped, and we were still, figuring a lot of stuff out, whether that was pest management, keeping plants healthy, keeping them alive, and then also on the other side, getting our work and our workforce to be efficient, using people's abilities in the most efficient way possible. So when I started, I was coming from outdoor education in California, some farm education, and then I also worked with folks with differing abilities in Jackson. I'd done that for a number of years, and so this was kind of a perfect opportunity for me. I started as a tomato associate, so I was just climbing up ladders and working on the plants every day, all day. After about a year, I moved up into the integrated pest management role, as well as the tomato management role. So I was dealing with bugs and dealing with the tomatoes, helping them grow best. And then just in the last month, I was promoted to the farm manager, which was very exciting. I'm very grateful for that. And my two supervisors, Chris Hoegberg, who Shawn works with a lot, and then Emily Churchill, who was in the film, I believe. And they were both my supervisors, and so they've given me a lot of good training for that. But yeah, so it's been a good a little over 3 years.
That's wow, and yeah, that's just amazing.
Can I just toot Shawn's horn for 1 minute? So Shawn, when we finished filming, there was no one with a disability in a management position at Vertical Harvest. And since then, there are 2 people in management positions, and Shawn is one of them. So it's important to note that people have an opportunity. Upward mobility is really important in a quality job.
I was thoroughly impressed and fascinated by the whole employee review process and how that was approached. And maybe towards the end, I might be able to circle back to that. But just like, who wouldn't want to work in that kind of environment? I just kind of think like, wow, what if my review looked like that? Or that's how I held reviews with the folks that work with me. I mean, it's just an amazing way to approach things. Okay, Lloyd, can you please share with us what about Hearts of Glass stood out for you? Was there a moment in the story or a character that stood out to you, and why?
Well, there were so many things that stood out to me about this great film, and I have to compliment Jen on just an amazing job on this wonderful project. And I was so impressed with the great employees, the management, the commitment to making this project happen. Over $4 million in investment, dealing with varying farming conditions and various issues with lighting, and just sticking to it and making it happen. And Shawn is one of the amazing employees. And I agreed to be on the panel because I thought it'd give me an inside track to get an autograph from Shawn. So that's why I'm here. Maybe a shot at being in the sequel, but I just was very inspired by you, Shawn, and just the commitment of the architect and the funders and the management and the employees and the filmmaker. Just a wonderful project, very impressive results. And just everything about it impressed me. It was just a wonderful film.
There was a collaboration theme throughout, right? In every area, right? Collaboration with the restaurants, collaboration with the employees, collaboration with the architect, right? Just really powerful when you there's layers upon layers in that document.
As soon as Jackson warms up, I'm moving. But I was so impressed with the community and everybody involved and the restaurateurs, and just what a wonderful community.
Vertical Harvest 2, Lloyd enters. Yes. Enter Lloyd, I think sounds better. Yeah.
Hopefully I can be good with the tomatoes. I'm not so sure. But
Luke, I would also like to ask you, was there something in the documentary that you related to or that you saw in your own work experience as well?
One of the I forget his name, but he's a driver, and that kind of made me feel good because it took me 4.5 years to get my license because of my disability of being dyslexic. And it's kind of tricky having dyslexia because but you give me a model car, I can build it in like a day or two.
Right.
But I mean, it showed me that a person with disabilities, like Shawn said, people don't take a risk, and they don't really look at us deeper. They just kind of look at the book cover and like, oh, I don't like that book. They don't even open it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot. I think we all operate in the same way, right? We all have our own self-doubts and our own insecurities, and being able to see somebody else do it, right, helps make it go a long way for all of us as well to take that next step. So I appreciate you sharing that. Lloyd, one of the points in the film is that while it's good to have a social mission, at the end of the day, you need to have a successful business. How does this play out in your work?
In my work, the more successful we are with our stores, the more funding we can provide for our social mission and the more we can do for the community. So a social enterprise is a business, and the objective of the business is to make earnings. We focus on growing revenue. We focus on growing earnings. We've actually tripled revenue during my tenure. We're now doing over $100 million a year, and we've increased profits tenfold. But the whole point is to be successful, to fund a social mission in the community. So, we have hired 350 employees with intellectual disabilities. We've funded over $100 million to advocacy in Colorado versus $30 million in 15 years prior to me. And we've also distributed 100 tons of food since COVID struck. We have supplied tens of thousands of pounds of supplies to all of the rescue mission shelters, senior centers, child care centers, millions of dollars in vouchers to our stores. And none of that is possible without a successful business. And when you think about Hearts of Glass, my impression is they're now turning a profit, and they've gone through growing pains. And as they grow, they'll be able to hire more people with disabilities and to do more for the community. And they're a perfect social enterprise, a very impressive social enterprise.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one of the things that stood out for me as well is that it's not, it comes out in the documentary that it's cutting edge on a bunch of different areas. And to have a hydroponic farm in Wyoming, right? like it,
Next to a parking garage.
right. You could have picked an easier, right, job, right, to do, but it really is an amazing, just all the way around, right? The science of it, the renewable aspects of things, and how it addresses the need in the community. I just think was absolutely fascinating, and had its own challenges as well.
And
Go ahead, Jen.
yeah, no, it's just you brought it up. I mean, I think the power of the business, and I'm sure Lloyd feels the same way, is that Vertical Harvest grew out of a community need for year-round produce here, and it would have been a very different model, and I think a less impactful model, and not really heading in the right direction if it had generated from, like, what kind of business can we start where we can employ people with disabilities. So it grew out of a community need, and then they were able to incorporate an underemployed workforce who, can work, has a desire to work, has the capability to work. And I think what we realize is if we set people up for success, they will be successful. So, I think it's important, when you're thinking about businesses, to figure out community needs, and, the idea of marrying these two things, sort of social and environmental, can be quite powerful.
Yeah, and I have a unfair advantage because I sat in on a panel at the Alliance Summit and got to hear some of your answers. And one of the ones that stuck out to me as well was about how you were surprised at how much you had been removed from the population in your own community. And I think that's probably true for many people. I know it was true for me as well. Before I started in this field, it was kind of shocking to realize that I had been restricted in my access to a whole population of people in my community, and being able to have folks see and interact and understand people's differences and abilities and strengths was just amazing. And another outstanding symbolism of doing that in a glass building, right, where where people could see everything, right? It's just amazing. So thank you. This is going to be a question for everybody, and so I'll just go ahead and ask the question and then call on you, and you can give me your feedback on that. This question is: was there a way in which the film addresses disabilities and/or inclusion that stood out to you? And Luke, let's start with you. Was there something in the film that you connected with on how disabilities or inclusion was addressed?
Basically, to me, the film kind of got me emotional in certain parts of where people with non-disability were actually training people with disability to do the register, do inventory, and looking at certain other things of the company. And to me, that's a lot of responsibility for a person with disabilities. But again, we can still do the same job of a normal person can do. It would take us a little bit longer to understand what we're learning and to understand how to do it the proper way and how to do it the efficient way. And I mean, I've been at my job for 12 years, so I'm doing something right.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. And
Not only that, a little bird told me you're training people now.
Yes, I have been promoted to trainer. I've trained one person and he's 17, and we all know how teenagers are. I'm being more lenient with him because I've been in that area, because people have been yelling at me, telling me what to do when I was that age. It's like, let me step back and let me observe him, how he works in that environment. And, I get frustrated, but I don't take it out on him. I try to teach them a different way.
You know, Luke, something that you said connected really strongly with me in both what you described in your experience as well as the experience that I saw of the individuals in the documentary, which I think is a message for all of us, right? Patience, right? Just everybody, let's just take the time to find out where the strength is rather than to be dismissive and pull people short. And so, you know, that level of patience, I can hear it in your experience, and I could see it in how folks were searching for their strength, right? And researching it, even with Micah doing the presentation, was pretty powerful. So thank you for that answer. Shawn, was there a way, well, where you work, how, you know, how disabilities and inclusion are meaningful to you working at Vertical Harvest?
Well, with the, like what Luke said, it's just like my disability is like, it's kind of hard to say, but it's kind of, it's different, but it's just kind of hard to say how my disability, somebody like look at me and say, do you see that I have a disability? And I say, yes, I do. And it's just, it's kind of hard.
Yeah, I would imagine. That's a powerful experience to share. So thank you. Robin, while you've been working there, like what's your takeaway on that, the things that stand out for you on how Vertical Harvest addresses inclusion?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really just powerful that in general, if you make your employment process inclusive, it can only strengthen your business, I think. Like in order to play to the strengths of anyone really, but especially someone with a disability, you have to know where they might fit in to your business, to your work. You also have to make your processes and expectations really clear in order to train someone effectively and expect that, you know, someone will stick with it and actually will have a job that plays to their strengths. And once you do that, once you make your processes and expectations really clear, that really benefits everyone in the business, because when people are clear on what's expected of them and they're in a role that plays to their strengths, you know, that's where real growth happens. And I think people stay happy. So that's why I'm still here.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Tom, those job
ahead.
reviews that you were talking about are so, like, I never knew how many bad jobs I had before I was filming those segments where people were actually getting meaningful feedback about. The other thing I think Vertical Harvest has done, and probably Lloyd does this too, is you know, you give people an opportunity to branch out and to try something new, and you also give people with and without disabilities the dignity to fail at something and maybe say, oh, that wasn't for me. But that's how we find out, you know, I mean, we all like certain things and want to try certain things, but that may change over time. And, you know, giving people those opportunities to expand their learning and skill set are also, I think, really important.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think that I kind of do that okay, and then saw that and was like embarrassed. I'm like, oh wow, that's pretty powerful, right? I mean, but completely natural, right? I mean, it was one of the most natural experiences in a work kind of evaluation environment, and really stuck out to me about, you know, Luke, to your point, being able to see somebody do it different, right?
Yes.
Seeing Vertical Harvest do this different allows the rest of us to go, okay, well, how do we get this into our workforce? How do we get this process and openness? And, you know, it just struck me as completely non-rigid, really looking to, hey, let's try this and see how you like it, right? Does this work for you or not work for you? And so, you know, I think we all, like I said earlier, we all learn from being able to see other people in their successes. Lloyd, is there a way in which the film addresses disability inclusion that stood out for you?
Yeah, the training, the time, the patience, the understanding, the not setting low expectations, the acceptance, and then I think the sense of fun. I mean, I think Ty was promoted to tomato assistant. I thought that was fabulous. And then they went to the fair, and I think Ty was going to ride the zipper. And there was some talk about a jumping contest, but the weekly meetings, the daily meetings, just the natural ability to appreciate and love each other and enjoy each other reminded me of our organization. We've got all these wonderful employees, but they're, they appreciate us. We love them. And we have a gentleman with Down syndrome who brings in his bowling score every week on Wednesday and announces it over the PA system, and all the customers and employees applaud. We have another young lady with cerebral palsy who told my CEO group she was gunning for my job. Could she throw better parties? And when I chided her a bowling night, she said she was throwing under the short bus. We just really enjoy working with people with IDD who just have an appreciation for life and an enjoyment of life that we can all learn from. And my own son, he tells us he's married. I'm not sure the wife knows. He tells us he has children. I'm pretty sure the mother doesn't know. But his enjoyment of life is infectious. And it's just, I could see that in this film and the appreciation that everyone had for each other. And that's just remarkable. That's remarkable.
Thank you. Thank you. And Jen, I know we've covered a few things, but is there an area in the process of doing this documentary where that stood out for you?
I think again, we were at that other conference, and I think it was the fact that I live in a small town, and there's a whole segment of a population that I don't have regular interaction with. So, it was quite an experience for me to be able to, in the process of doing this documentary, to become friends with employees at Vertical Harvest, both those with and without disabilities, to meet parents and service providers, and really see that there are a lot of elements that come into play to create successful outcomes. And, it's not rocket science, but everybody has to kind of play their part. There have to be high parental expectations. Kids have to have inclusive schooling and, learn skills and that, are marketable and they can take to work, or maybe they want to go into higher education, go to college, that employers need to be educated about having a diverse workforce. It's great to, I think, have the film sometimes be the centerpiece where we can bring folks together and they can all kind of talk about things instead of being in their own little silos about how to have better employment and community inclusion outcomes.
Absolutely. And I think, aside from having those, something like your documentary to be a focal point, but really including all the participants, and like Luke and Shawn, I really appreciate you guys coming here tonight to be able to share their experience and for folks to get firsthand understanding about abilities and opportunities that are probably not even showing up for them at this point. So thank you for that. Jen, since we're with you, why don't we stick with you, and how has inclusive workforce benefited all the employees?
How has it benefited all the employees? I think, again, my experience is seeing that sometimes accessibility issues, or when a modification is made for one employee, it actually benefits everyone. I think and I'm probably not the best person to answer this question because I don't work there, but I just see that you get this sense of people pulling together for a common goal. You do see mutual respect. I mean, it's not perfect. I'm sure wherever people work, there are still people who annoy other people. So let's not, let's not make it whatever. But I think, when people always have that goal of making the business the best it can be, that people really do have the capacity to sort of overcome those little interpersonal hiccups. I love that Vertical Harvest focuses, they have this thing called a grow well model, which I'm sure Shawn and Robin can speak more to. And maybe I'll just pass it over to you guys to talk about the grow well model.
Yeah, Robin, would you mind at least starting us off with that? Because I think that's a wonderful aspect of what you guys have implemented at Vertical Harvest.
Yeah, so each employee, myself included, Shawn, we have empowerment plans where we filled out all these kind of different questions about everything from what motivates you in the workplace to what do you think your strengths are, what do you think your weaknesses are, how do you receive feedback well, like do you have any triggers that will set you off, and that's something that my supervisor, Shawn's supervisor, whoever supervisor takes very seriously. And we also have these things called milestone marker plans, and they are these kind of systems where if you think of maybe a corporate structure where certain responsibilities are attached to certain position levels, that's how it is here, except the responsibilities are customized per person as opposed to really the position level. So titles at the greenhouse have been less important than where people are on their milestone plan. And the cool thing too is that after we really get to know someone through like a job experience, trial period, we can create that milestone plan. And as someone moves up, each level is also tied to a pay raise of some kind. And we also try and make our pay competitive and livable wages depending on the person's situation. So yeah, that's what it means to me. Shawn, do you want to add anything to that? What grow well or the customized employment means for you?
Well, the custom grow well plan for me is, since like Robin said, it just depends on the person and what level they are. And so like for me, my grow well plan is like the strength is like working with the hard equipment and stuff like that. And some other coworkers I work with, they have certain different plans, like how to the disability, psych certain departments, they have different work ethics and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's an amazing process. I really do. Okay, Lloyd, we talked a little bit, and you've touched on this a little bit as well, but feel free to expand and how an inclusive workforce has benefited all your employees, and maybe touch on a little bit your buddy program.
Yeah, we have a one-on-one buddy program, and we do on-the-job training, and we make sure that people are supported who have disabilities. And we are very attentive to what their skills and interests are. And we will shift jobs as needed and do supplemental training as needed. But the impact on our typical employees, I think they know they're working for more than just a paycheck. They're working to help make a difference in people's lives. And they know that they're helping people, accomplish things in life with the support they're able to provide. And I think it enhances morale, which benefits everybody. And again, prior to me, sales were flat. And when we introduced this program, we've had 15 of 16 record years. with remarkable financial results, and able to hire 1,000 additional employees and put in 401k match programs and healthcare benefits. And, I would do this in any company. It just makes great business sense and has an amazing impact on typical employees. Same things happens in schools, by the way. The more people with IDD are included, the impact that they have on their typical students is amazing. Those students are introduced in a population that they've not been exposed to, as per what you said, Tom. And, they gain an understanding of differences in people, and, there's a real camaraderie that happens and a real bonding that happens, and just makes a very positive impact on everybody.
It sounds horribly simple, right? And yet we don't do it in many situations. And so it's one of those powerful moments as well. And Luke, I'd like to circle back to you as well. You talked about this a little bit earlier, and you've been working for 12 years at Jackson Steamers, and you talked a little bit about how your job role has expanded. Can you talk about some of the skills that you developed and the outcomes and the things that you're reaching for?
You're reading? My reading, I really didn't have a really good reading level. So my manager, Ms. Smith, went online to help find me a reading person to get better at reading. Reading coach. To get better at reading and understanding like recipes and measurements and learning more about reading the driver's manual, because that is a mess. Just throwing that one out there. But it helped me to help others. Like there's another guy, he can't really read the clock very well, but I'm trying to teach him how to read the clock because it's analog, not digital log, but I can read both. But yeah.
Fantastic. And do you have, you were talking about learning or getting better at reading to be able to read the driver's manual. Do you have a goal, and were you able to achieve that goal?
Yes, I did get my driver license in 2019 of August.
That is awesome.
How many people have that in agency?
In the agency I'm with, there's only me and 2 other people I know have their driver's license, and they actually drive cars. That's one of those things. It's very rare for an agency to have adult clients to get their license. Some are not willing to do it, but they see us as examples to they can do it.
Right.
It's up to them.
Yeah. It goes back to what you were saying before, and you're a role model for a bunch of other people to know that they can do it. Do you have your heart set on any particular car, or are you good?
Well, Rachel knows, and my boss, Ms. Smith, knows. It's well, I have a project truck from my dad
That you're working on?
saving money to work on.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's amazing stuff. Thank you for sharing that.
The car is a 1970 Chevelle SS 454 LS6. Yeah.
Snap. Okay.
I'm a junior mechanic, so I love cars.
Man of many talents. I appreciate that. And very useful ones too. I may bring my car up.
Depending on what year it is. If it has more computer stuff,
Right,
I'm not
right.
touching it. If it's a
Yeah, I have a general rule. If I open the hood and I can't see the ground, it's probably not going to be fixed
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah, that's about it.
Outstanding. All
And
right. Oh, go ahead, please.
another thing I've learned in my job is try to keep all 10 fingers when you're chopping and doing certain other recipes, what involves knives. So that's rule number 1 and 2. Try to keep your fingers away and try to keep them attached.
Right. Always helpful. Okay. Shawn, can you tell me what's been the most helpful feedback you've received from an employer or a coworker?
Well, one positive feedback is like my employer said, "Man, Shawn, you really did a good job of repairing the carousel that it broke down. You know, it took me like 10 seconds to fix." And yeah, that was a good comment that my employer said to me. So
Awesome. And Robin, how about you?
Yeah, I think a piece of feedback, I just got it recently when I transitioned to my new role, that is just that, you know, there are big decisions that need to be made sometimes, and, you know, perfection is not the goal, because that's not possible. And going, you know, with my best decision based on my experience, you know, is the best. And if my gut's telling me that I'm really not sure, seeking help from others, whether that's my coworkers or my supervisor. Yeah.
Let's if we have just a few minutes left, and we got some amazing questions in the chat. Do you mind if we pivot to doing some of our Q&A?
Absolutely.
All right, let me fire off some of these questions. This first one is for Shawn. Our audience member loved you in the documentary, and she said you had great energy. How do you stay so positive and motivated at work?
well, that's just be positive. It's my way of getting people to laugh at me. And so it's just, I'm a easygoing guy. It's just, I don't get mad. It's just be happy.
You can tell, Shawn. It was great. It came right through in the film. We love that. Another question. And Jen's going to take this one. So Jen, what will it take to get a vertical harvest location in Denver?
Oh my, that's for me. I think that should be for Robin or Shawn. Sorry.
No, that's no problem at all. Robin, this one got kicked to you.
Absolutely. A lot of motivated people and some capital for sure. But you know, actually, if you really do want to get in touch with us, you can go onto our website, and there is a link that you can click in there that will connect you to our team if you are seriously interested, and we will reach out to you and kind of give some advice, see where you're at. Yeah.
This is a very similar question, so I don't know if we need to answer it, but we'll call it out anyway. And hi, Jamie from Promise Ranch in Castle Rock. Her question was how to get started on another farm-based inclusive employment program. So it sounds like we can look, Robin, on the website, and thanks, Jen, for posting that in the chat. And of note, Promise Ranch provides equine assisted therapies. So maybe there's an opportunity for manure composting business. I like that combination of this film and what you do, Jamie. Okay, our next question is for Jen. Love the documentary. Did you have any other experience with the IDD population before making the documentary? And did anything surprise you while making the film?
I did not have much experience with the IDD community before. I had a brother who is 19 years older who was diagnosed with manic depression and lived with my lived with us while I was growing up as a kid, is as if my parents had two separate families, one child each. But anyway, I grew up with a 19-year-old brother, a brother who was 19 years older than myself in the house. And I saw him struggle to find his way in the world and meaningful employment. So it's not the same, but it's the same in that people are much more than their diagnosis. I knew enough that making this film that I didn't know much about developmental disabilities and IDD. So I reached out to experts at University Centers of Excellence in Developmental Disability in Montana and Wyoming, and national organizations. And I talked with self-advocates and yeah, and I mean, everyone has a different perspective, but it was nice to get sort of a generic level of competency, or that I wasn't being offensive or counterproductive. I think often when we're trying to be allies in the beginning, we do a lot of talking for other people or people with disabilities. And one of the things as you progress is kind of learning how to shut up. So hopefully I'm learning that a little bit. Yeah.
Great answer, Jen. Thank you. This question is for Robin. Robin, what current hurdles are you facing at Vertical Harvest right now? I know there were issues with equipment in the documentary, but curious if there were any new hurdles you're facing. You talked a little bit about this before, but we'd love to hear if there's any new developments in Vertical Harvest.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, the mechanical, technological side of it has been improving, ever since we opened. And one thing that we've really improved is our lighting system, transferring to LEDs for efficiency, as well as, they're better for plants in general than alternatives. And, another thing we did is we recently finished converting one of our compartments to a new like micro and petite green, like it's kind of a mini farm, but it's really cool. It's a very like climate controlled box within our facility, and it's this it's kind of like a spaceship farm. Like we can really control the environment perfectly in there, and it's really optimizing our growing. So that's been exciting. Our main hurdle, I think, is even with that improvement, we're still understanding that system and trying to get our plants to grow like in their ideal way. And the bigger that we get, and the more, creating this new space means we started getting almost twice as much produce now that we're producing. And so, making sure we have the right number of people, that they're scheduled correctly, and that we're still maintaining that grow well model, even within a kind of bigger business as we get bigger. It's just been a top priority. So, and it's kind of funny because once you start growing those plants in a space and you double your produce, the plants they're not going to stop growing, so you got to be ready to act on the spot and get people where they need to be. So, yeah.
Yeah. We know how important those microgreens are too. We remember that from the documentary.
Exactly.
Shawn, is there a new skill or job that you would like to learn at Vertical Harvest?
Not right now. It's just when it comes around, I will grab it.
Yeah. Love that. Yeah, sometimes opportunities just present themselves. Luke, can you share about what you like most about your job?
What I like about my job is learning new things and helping other people out and being there when I'm needed and just basically helping everybody out.
Dan asked, there is research has found the best indicator of employment success for an adult who experiences IDD is earning a paycheck as a high school student. Any thoughts? I think a variety of people could probably answer this question. Anyone want to tackle it? I see the wheels moving.
Shawn, did you work as a high school student? Were you in Idaho then, or were you in Jackson?
I'm originally from Idaho, and I have so many like jobs that I had there. It's just like a janitor, like carpentry, like wood making. So I have, from when I lived in Idaho, I had so many like job titles that I can't remember all of them.
Oh, go
One
ahead.
of my other jobs was memory care. It was a retirement home for elderly people. And I mean, I was earning a check, and that made me really felt good because now I can go buy stuff I want for myself. And I mean, that's a perfectly good question because some people don't know if that will help them or not. And sometimes people like to buy random things like I do. I'm sorry. But I mean, getting a paycheck is basically taking another ownership of, saving money for a car and saving money for, certain other things, car parts and stuff,
Buying your own things.
buying my own stuff and feeling like an adult and not having restrictions on what I cannot buy and can buy. And yeah.
Luke, I don't know
Yes.
if anyone could have said that better. That's brilliant. Go ahead, Jen.
No, I was just saying, all of the things that Luke and Shawn have talked about, are about independence and working towards your independence. And, that is something that we are all trying to achieve. And I think, you guys have done major work to get where you are. And it's so exciting to hear, Luke, that you got your driver's license a couple of years ago. And I know Shawn, one of his favorite recent purchases is an F100. Is that it? Yeah. 150. Who knows? I don't know.
It's
Trucks.
150.
F150. I'm such a girl. Yeah.
This last question, I think we'd like to pose to Lloyd. So what would you like potential future employers of folks with disabilities to know? What message would you give them?
Well, I think I'd like to know them to know that they're very competent employees who add a lot to the workplace. Low turnover, a real commitment to their jobs, a real commitment to teams. They work very positively with their co-employees. And, I think the example of my company is one that I would take to heart, that we have substantially improved our financial performance by hiring 350 employees with IDD. And we've never been more successful. And I think that, that will happen at Vertical Harvest, and it can happen at any company that takes the time and has the understanding to employ these wonderful people who have these great skills and talents that are under-recognized.
Fantastic, Lloyd. I think that message will resonate with a lot of future employers. Well, we are down to 1 minute, so I'm going to close us out. We want to thank everyone for their participation this evening, especially our amazing panel with Shawn, Luke, Robin, Jen, Lloyd, and our moderator, Tom. We know that this is a very important conversation, and we want to continue that momentum. So I'll pose some questions to you to begin thinking about it. If you're an employer, if you can change your recruitment or hiring practices. If you're someone looking for employment, is there a way that you can leverage your current skill set? I know we have a lot of professionals on this call tonight. And if there's a way that you, as you're supporting your person, finding opportunities for other growth and training and even employment, we want to continue the momentum from this evening. So we're going to send out some resources after this to equip you with the next steps in the process. We really want to inspire employers and career seekers alike to join in on this work. So we thank you all for this evening and appreciate your time. Yeah, big thanks to our panelists one more time. Thank you so much.
Well, we'd like to thank you too, Rachel and Dinah, for all the work you put into bringing this together. So thank you so much.
Absolutely wonderful experience.